No, tell me now.
All right. Short story. I went to Walmart Saturday night just to walk around, and I hear over the intercom, lady says Code Brown, and I'm like, I wonder what a Code Brown is. I'm thinking somebody shit all over the fucking bathroom. That's all I can think. So I look on Google real fast, and it says active shooter / active violence. And I'm like, okay, a little worried. I do have my Glock on me, so I'm okay. But I'm in the very back of the store. I can't just like walk out. So like I kind of like meander around the side of the store, and I get nothing's really happening, like no ruckus. I get to the cash register, but then I get to the self checkout, and there's 5 cops standing at the door. I'm like, oh, there must have been something happening. And like I guess Code Brown was either active shooter or like active violence. So then I go outside, and dude, there's 8 patrol cars out there, and I was like, this could have been an active shooter trying to get a freaking kill, but no, nobody was in. That's my shitty story, I guess. I thought it was a poop. I thought somebody had pooped all over the bathroom, man. I was like, Code Brown? Yeah.
Cam's like this right here. Motherfucker.
That's wild. All right, we'll run it back again for the sponsors. We got another bottle, or same bottle, old Granddad. Feeling great about it. And we're going to go with one of the local JC cigars. We're just going to chew one of them inside. But JC cigars from a Cuban roller up in St. Augustine. So.
Very nice.
Right there's a brown alert right there. If you ask me, you got a cigar. Brown alert.
True gentleman's podcast.
Yeah. All wearing green, so that's fantastic. Feel lucky with St. Patty's Day around the corner.
Yeah.
Got a couple baseball bats back here. Got a signed Andre Dawson bat. That's the Cooperstown bat right there. That's the I went to Cooperstown bat.
Was Andre Johnson? Is that the Duke? What they call him?
Andre. It's not the Beast, is it?
It's something like the Duke or
it's
the
Hawk.
Eagle or something.
I think he's the Hawk.
The Hawk.
I think it's Andre Dawson. Yeah. We'll clip it. We'll clip that. Well, welcome back, episode 2, Stogies with Bogey. We're gonna keep this one pretty casual. No point system, no yellow or red cards, because they're like out of walking distance. I really wanted to get back to Jonathan Camp's Hill from episode 1, and on the show with us today we have Jonathan Camp in green and Jimmy Jones in green, in case you couldn't tell them apart. Yeah. We'll let Camp talk about his hill a little bit more because he explained it last time, but I wanted to hear his point of view on it because I did think it was interesting. It wasn't a dumb hill by any means. We're going to bring it back and we're going to kind of dissect it because I think it's a real big issue. I guess you'd call it an issue, but it's just a real big factor that a lot of people don't think about, and it can really make or break your early adulthood if considered, because people just don't think about it day to day. So. Yeah, go ahead and remind us what your hill was.
So Jonathan Camp, back for episode 2. The hill was basically adults being uninformed about how money really works. And I just listened to a podcast today, actually it's about an hour, and one of the gentlemen, I'm sure he's a millionaire, he's a gold guy, and he said the school system was basically made for us to be taxpayers. It wasn't made for us to do anything else. Like the system, again, you guys have probably heard, the system's not broken. It's working how it's supposed to be working. So, like, that's broad scope of, what I had to say about last time.
Yeah, so, perfect. I guess I would say, so you're talking about the system, and the system is a big term that we slap on a lot of things that are just really dense topics, and whether we don't know what it is or just there's so many facets, which is what I kind of wanted to get into because the economic system is many different things, right? There's making money, there's saving money, there's investing money, there's losing money, there's spending money. There's so many different movements that money can do. And especially nowadays where there's just more than enough subscriptions or what have you to manage. Um, Almost everything's a payment nowadays. And I know a lot of people are set up that way where they're either not letting any money out of their account and they have to spend everything manually, or they're having things automated and taken out. So they're really not saving the money. I guess Jimmy, you brought up the last time that you thought Camp was talking about you, a guy like you that you got out of college, got a nice job, got married, had a kid, all and bought a house all in the same year, renovated it. So there's definitely money things happening around you and what you had to do. So kind of like, what was your mindset then? Like looking back on it now, going, man, what the hell happened? What actions did I take or not take? Do you think it was more of the actions that you took, or just not taking any action that had the most effect that brought you where you're at now?
I don't think it was necessarily that I was like trying to be not secure or not kind of educated in the money facet, but I really just, um, I just wasn't. Gosh, it almost like I got so consumed. I consumed myself so much with like the engineering world that I just kept everything else out. So I want to kind of, I guess, blame kind of that on why I just didn't really go into the money stuff. So, um, but yeah, I definitely still to this day I'm not investing very well. The only thing I kind of started taking a real good initiative on is investing for JJ's future. So 529 plans and like Florida prepaid for his continued education. So that kind of pushed me into that direction. Not necessarily investing yet for myself, other than the government pension that I contribute to. But it's still nothing huge, and I still have a lot more work to do to, make my portfolio a little bit bigger. So it's not just neck down and sucking money out of one aspect of it. But yeah, I mean, I don't know where I fell short on kind of learning, but like we were talking last time, I'm still somewhat. It's not too late. I'm only 29 years old, so I think I still have a little bit of time, definitely, to start investing. I wish I would have started investing in a Roth a lot earlier, but yeah, man, I don't know where I fell short or kind of why I didn't start taking it seriously earlier on, but I'm definitely in that mode now with JJ kind of motivating me to um, take that stuff more seriously, especially for him.
I don't, I don't think falling short's the right word. I think just being unaware is kind of like what Camp was saying. I don't think a lot of people don't do detrimental things unless they're really off the tracks.
Right.
I think a lot of people just there's inaction, right?
Yeah.
You're making money, you're spending money, you got it in your savings account. It's not really doing anything. Yeah, you got the 401k match or whatever your company does, and that's great. Taking full advantage of that. I mean, a lot of the stuff I learned and stuff was just like from the parents or from the last generation of how you just put money away and it's just going to grow forever and at a good steady pace. And yeah, there's big dips and big corrections in the market up and down, but recently I looking back at the history charts, the recent times have been a lot more volatile, uh, just because the world's more globally connected. So our markets are affected by things halfway across the world, and vice versa. Um, I guess I'll go back to Camp, like who, with all I guess since in college or since college, whenever you really start talking, thinking about money, if it was before, that's great too. But what were your information channels? Like, who did you go to, or what did you go to kind of, or did you just come across something that you started kind of learning or thinking about the financial system and how are you going to live your life in it?
So I think I talked to somebody about this, just kind of how we're talking. And my journey was basically from cryptocurrency the opposite way. So everything I learned about the traditional system, I learned because of I was trying to understand cryptocurrency and why it's here, why it evolved, why did Bitcoin show up in 2009 or 2008, whatever it may be, and just watching podcasts. And along that journey, I don't know if you guys watched. I know Cody, I sent you that YouTube uh, video once before, but I sent it in the group chat. When I saw that, YouTube clip, like at that point I knew that I didn't know anything about money because our system was created in like the 1960s or 70s or 50s, and it hasn't changed. The system is exactly the same. So we've had this large technology bubble, the 90s and the early 2000s, but like the money transfer, it hasn't changed. So I thought that was fascinating. And I think that was probably 2000, probably right during COVID. I couldn't leave my barracks room. So a lot of the research I was doing was probably at that point. And yeah, 2000, 2001 is like when I really started, like, because I didn't have a family like Jimmy. I didn't have a wife, and I didn't have all these obligations. I was, every chance I got, I was putting in 500, $1,000, like every couple 2 weeks, to like the cryptocurrency I thought would be like the ones moving forward. But yeah, I kind of went the opposite way than most people. But yeah, it was definitely YouTube, podcasts, all the stuff that anybody can, kind of find if they go looking for it. I try to tell my mom, I was like, from this moment on, I think from the 2010s on, I don't feel sorry for most people anymore because the information's out there. Most people spend their life on YouTube watching stuff that doesn't matter. Like, I mean, it's not like, and I told her maybe in the 90s, Amazon, Facebook, that stuff, it was hard for them to know the information was out there about those companies because the internet wasn't around. But man, now the information's there. It's at your fingertips. You got $1 billion piece of equipment at your hands at all times, like $1 trillion piece of equipment.
I need to get like a Jamie or something. I need like Rachel on here.
Jamie
Hey, pull that thing out. Pull up 1960s financial picture for Cam. That was very well said, by the way, Cam. That was good. Very broad, very encompassing description of looking back at time. I wish we were there. I wish we could have looked through it. I wish we could have done that. But that goes into a whole other topic because we don't talk about history or the past with our immediate family members. So like, hey, what was it like? What was going on? Don't give me without the nostalgia, right? Nostalgia is a very strong hormone inducer. Everyone loves all the good stuff, right? We talk about Edward Riddle on playing baseball there, like it was the best. But when you really think about it and take out that nostalgia, it's like, dang, like it was a grind. Like we won 14 games one year. Like,
Yeah.
we look back at that year, man. So we had some fun. We made some memories. I wish we were still there, but
It was a
we won
grind.
14 games and we lost the flow.
Yeah.
So I just
Yeah.
but to talk about like all the constructive aspects of just how our parents or our grandparents maneuvered their times would have been very insightful. What's on my reading list? I have a couple books. The book Ryan showed up last time about the creation of the Federal Reserve was called Jekyll Island.
Yeah. The Creature of Jekyll Island. Yeah.
I have so much to read. I wish I would have kept reading like throughout high school and stuff and kind of built that stamina because it's a skill. It's like running. Like you can't just pick up a dense book and think you're going to read it like it's a murder mystery, right? You gotta really dig deep. But it's a lot of the bills, a lot of the major bills that were celebrated, that got the dog and pony show. It came through any legislation that was passed by the federal government. There's just so much in those things, and I feel so ignorant. And I do that every day. I mean, I look at land development code. I know Jimmy looks at regulations all the time for standards and does that for designing and engineering. So there's words upon words upon words. There's codes and laws that are out there. So what is there anything that sticks out about the older generations? It could be any time period, but the older early 1900s or mid 1900s, or even when we were born, our parents were raising us. You guys see anything that like stood out or any differences?
I think for my family, looking back, there was a strong ideal to not rely on the government. So like, I remember my dad telling me stories of my grandfather doing his own taxes, not wanting any type of return. He wanted to break even every year. He didn't want there to be a chance to be messed up or anything like that. So I feel like the older generations really did not want the government's hands in their pockets or didn't want a chance for the government to have any sort of control on them. and obviously, I think nowadays people, want not that they want government assistance, but that it's more of a norm nowadays for government assistance. Um, you know, it used to be frowned upon in the olden days. You didn't want a handout, or not calling all government assistance handouts, but you didn't. People were too proud for that kind of stuff, and they wanted to roughneck it through before they really wanted any assistance at all. So, not taking away from the people that get government assistance, but there was definitely it was frowned upon by that older generation that really just wanted to pull up their boots and get it done.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. I mean, you must have read the podcast notes for today because it goes into that next section of the government taking care to the fullest extent, right? I mean, that's that's why they're trillions of dollars in debt, right? They used that want and desire and the convenience of the people to go, oh, our government's going to take care of that, and then they just kept passing budget spending after budget spending of not whatever they wanted. And they would obviously were finding out all that stuff with Doge about what they were spending money on, at least nowadays. But I mean, that started way back when, and we were the same way. Um, it was work as hard as you can, provide for what's yours, right? And then, yeah, if you needed help, you needed help, but usually you got a pretty good community. Hopefully, you have a good community around yourself. And for those that don't have that immediate community around themselves, the government, local, state, or federal government's there to help you out. Like that would be a good social security, right? Safety net that you're sitting in. But unfortunately, you have the people that the government serves and the government itself that always look out for the best interest of themselves. And there's a lot of people that then exploit whatever system is there on both sides. They have so many people using these benefits or using these loopholes and stretching those kind of got like requirements, right? The qualifications. I qualified for this and you're stretching it out. That's fine. Use that for a certain amount of time. Then create a good habit and get off on your own. But it is, like you said, Jim, it's a taught, right? It's a raising. And that's how most of the people, most of my friends, at least you guys I know, were raised that way. That's how you guys act now, at least. So a little bit of that in you. Let's say you can.
Whenever Jimmy was talking about just like his grandfather's generation, I'm not sure like the time frame, but there was a buddy told me about a theory. It's a school bus theory, and the theory is basically school buses ruined society because at that point when students started getting on school buses, it detached them from like the family unit, and now they were basically being fully indoctrinated by the government. So it's kind of like I'm not sure when it was. I don't know the date, but school bus has been around for a while, and the theory was that school buses ruined society because they took away that parental oversight in like a tight knit community. And like, Jimmy's grandpa, he didn't want to be seen maybe in his community as somebody who was seeking help. So in his mind, it was like, okay, I'll just do it myself. But then like you got school buses coming around, and now I can go spend an extra hour at work. I can provide for my family a convenient, like the convenience of something at some point kind of swallows you whole. Like when you start getting a little bit, it's hard to stop. It's like sugar. Like sugar is a big thing, right? We eat a little bit, and we're like, oh, sugar's good, and it's just like the little stuff gets at you before you know it. Like you have a government.
I'm not by any means, and I'm definitely guilty of it. It's that dopamine hit. That dopamine's strong, man. You get any reaction you get. It's like, it's why those psychopaths are crazy because they get that little hit of dopamine for whatever's making them go crazy. And then their brain just isn't wired and they're doing some crazy stuff. But the biggest thing with the school bus, I mean, that's an interesting story, game. I like that. Um, it's that shoulder time, right? So, hey, what'd you do at school today? Like, you get that immediate, like, you just spent all day at school, and I get your fresh kind of reaction of the day. And that's when you get to say what happened, something interesting you did. But instead, you go on school buses, and like Jimmy said, they're needed for a lot of people, right? The schools have become much more far reaching.
Yeah,
Everyone always complains about lack of schools because they're just central, like they're more centralized, or not centralized, but um, they're more spread out. Like in some areas you have a lot of schools, but in most of these areas you have one high school for a very large region, and that creates those high schools are always pretty rough. Like the big schools were just crazy. You remember at college it was just like you're on your own. I didn't know 90% of the people there. I knew my little circle. But in college we're mature enough to kind of we're
You can
adults at that
navigate
point.
it.
So
Yeah.
exactly what was a 13-year-old know. So that's where even the officials and I absolutely love the dissolution of the uh, Department of Education. I've been asking for that for a while now because you have the more things or people you have to control and like or not control, but I guess you're controlling kids or herd them. But you're going to treat them like a herd or a mob or just a very big, large thing, and then you use the average. The who buses, that's good. That's a real. You said your grandpa said that.
No, those are one of the cadre members I work with. We were like riding to PT one day, and I think we saw a school bus or something. He's like, "You ever heard of the school bus theory?" I was like, "No." I was like,
I like that.
"Yeah."
That one's getting written down. Did you have anything on that, Jim?
Um, Not really, but it really. I will say that I camp got in a little bit about family and how kind of there's definitely I think a correlation between um, the nuclear family and government assistance. I really have strong feelings that um, our system now is almost incentivizing to dissect the nuclear family. There's single mothers out there, and my hats are off to them. Single fathers out there, and my hats are off to them. Our government gives some folks crutches to stay single, and give them incentives to to stay that way. And it's more profitable to stay single than to bring back the family nucleus. And I think that's a big deal, man. It's money aside, it's important for children to grow up with a two parent household and some sort of stability. So I understand we all need money to survive and put food in our mouths, but man, we got to start thinking of how to get these people off that assistance and then bring them back up into society, bring that family nucleus back together, and I think that will solve a lot of our problems if we can have stable households.
Yeah, the nuclear family is always the hot topic, and that's what they really just every single thing you can think of. If you think of woke craziness on the left, is nowhere it doesn't fit in that picture. I mean, regardless of if it's directly attacking it or not, it just doesn't fit that picture at all. Um, there's obviously some very liberal ideologies that do fit the nuclear family, and that's how politics used to be a little bit closer together, left and right. But ever since the swing started swinging a lot more, and I started listening to politics, it's just been not even close as far as each end of the spectrum. 100% right, Jay. That's if that starts happening. I think it is, man. With the weddings I've been to and seeing the people I met along my ways, which I would like to say are pretty diverse as far as uh, like different walks of life. Um, not the checklist of diversity that a lot of people use, but just different walks of life, different upbringings, socioeconomic classes, that kind of diversity, things that actually matter. Um, because I mean, if you're raised the same, you're raised the same for the most part, and then if it's your choice after that, if you decide to make the right choices, you're that type of person that made those kind of choices, and then that's the diversity of mindset that is real important. But a lot of them are going on the same path, right? And I know it's eyewash on TV, but you see a lot of athletes and other entertaining types that are thanking God, thinking they're Lord and Savior, and it's encouraging to see. I know it's kind of eyewash a little bit, but you got a camera and microphone in your face, and the first thing you say is that. That means something, right? I mean, it's not a joke, and it is. Who cares? It doesn't look like a joke. So, I think we're trending in the right direction. Or as the kids say these days, we're back. But um, kids these days can't. Kids these days, you know about it. You teach them, man. How's that going?
Uh, it's a the cadets are a weird environment because one, we go to I think it'd be a lot different if I was at maybe UCF or FSU, but because of the high quality of Embry-Riddle, the school, the high quality of the school, the cadets are more high strung than anything because a lot of them are engineers. So like they're basically doing what you guys did, baseball and engineering, which sucks. I'm sure I didn't do it, but plenty of nights I was watching Logan do homework and I'm sitting there with a business degree, chilling. So I mean, yeah, some of them are Homeland Security. They probably have a little more laid back schedule, but for the most part, man, like they they're you can definitely tell the difference in like the years a little bit, but most of the cadets they're all right. They're kind of nerdy, but you go to aeronautical school, what can you expect?
You can people can make their own assumptions about us, but you can say we're pretty nerdy.
Yeah.
I think I take the cake here out of us three, but uh, I know where I'm at. I know myself pretty well. I like to think. Uh, so we're gonna just stay on Camps Hill here. Um, is there anything you had a misperception on, maybe as you were growing up, eh, even in high school, like misperception as far as like money once you start kind of going places and spending money, going on dates or whatever, or something that maybe you were mistold on, maybe something your parents or around you were misinformed on, they just passed that knowledge down. Is there anything that's changed since then, Jim?
That's a tough question, man. Um, I don't know. I think going to back kind of how I was brought up. Investing wasn't a huge thing, but I will say that I was taught to save early on, and you know, you know, I thought that saving was enough only. And it's good to save money. And I think we can all agree on that. But I thought for many years in the past that saving is enough, and like I said, it's good. But I think now I'm trying to take that next step and invest in some of that money that I have saved up. So I definitely, as much as I joke on myself that I didn't take money seriously or investing seriously, I definitely understood saving. So and I was taught the old-fashioned way, stuff it in your walls or your safe or what have you. So I can save money, but I definitely had a misconception early on that just saving is enough. And there's research, and Camp can talk more about how you can double, triple, if you invest wisely and invest um, using your brain a little bit with research and YouTube, whatever resources are out there, you can expand that savings account without really having to work too hard, sweat wise.
Yeah, and I had the same experience with saving is enough. And I mean, both my parents were teachers. I mean, they were in the school system, kind of the same not government job necessarily, but government like set up as far as benefits and pension plan, things like that, to where you put in the time and effort, they'll take care of you on the back end with the pension. I think your parents were the same, military, and then other government bodies, whether it was out digging holes or running elections, and the same aspect goes there. If you save and you make it every week and make it every month, and keep growing, you build a little rainy day fund and safety fund for living expenses if something happens. Then your pension takes care of you, right? And obviously your dad had the GI Bill and all that stuff, which is great. And your mom did too, right? And, was your mom in the military?
No, my mom wasn't in the military, but she's worked with the elections office for over 30 years now, coming up.
Yeah, so she's 10 years away from being set pretty good there. And
Yeah,
uh, uh, I mean, that I would say is the biggest gap is I didn't have any inclination to take a government job. I mean, if I take a government job, it's going to be for power. It's going to be to run an election and try
well,
to make some
back
change.
then there was merit to government jobs and there was good pensions.
Now, was there merit, or did they just have a really good propaganda machine and the other tools were out there? Because I thought about that the other day. Like, man, like people used to be this, used to be that. It's like, Did they used to be, or do they just not have enough information to think? Or we get overloaded with information that really just messes up?
Well, speaking from GRU side, well, yeah, I mean, I guess there could have been propaganda wise, but we're looking at like recruits, or not recruits, but applicants. We used to get like for one job of a guy in our water crew, we used to get like over 250 applicants. Historically, 300 for one position. And then when COVID hit, and there was kind of distrust in government a little bit, kind of mixed into things, and the non-trust kind of advanced a little bit. We're looking at like 50, 20, at the all-time lows, like 10 or something like that for one position. So there was a drastic change of people not really trusting. Even though we're not government, we're fixing water mains and force mains. There was definitely a pull from trying not to go into government position. And I can definitely speak also that the pensions are not what they used to be, man. This return wise, you got to work longer now. You got to work 30 years instead of 20. A lot of the local municipalities, they don't offer 20-year pension plans anymore, so you work that little life away.
Yeah, and it's going to be tough. They're probably going to have to decrease some more of those benefits and update their salaries if they're trying to get quality applicants from the private sector to join in. I think maybe a market downturn in some industries may push people back to government because that tends to happen a lot. But then Trump can say he made a lot of jobs. So I like that, Jim. Just the saving is enough. I mean, it doesn't really tell everyone, and you end up inflation hits you up, right? The inflation bug will keep gobbling your money every year, and you don't know it, right? You just feel the costs go up, and you see your money piled down as you're spending more, right? And you're trying to save more. I think that's where a lot of people are now, because I still think a lot of people just save, and a lot of people are only able to save. Maybe they're not set up or have enough income and the less amount of expense to actually put things away and make money, make money. So make money. If that makes sense. I'll share one here too. Is in addition to that, um, the saving is the credit cards. I was always like credit cards are the worst thing ever, and they still kind of are if you use them properly. But if you use them properly and try to reap all the benefits that are out there on credit cards, then by all means use them. It's just an intermediary for spending your money. And it's a delayed payment. I mean, I spend my money in the beginning of the month and I pay it back at the beginning of the next month, and with zero interest because I'm borrowing money a month ahead of time, and I pay it before the interest kicks in. And I'll get whatever cash back or travel points, whatever you want, whatever your heart desires. There's a sense of security to it because if someone does steal it or hack it, then they're spending the credit card's money, and you can report theft, and they have all that stuff built in because they don't want people spending their money that aren't going to pay it back. So, but I was always raised like, no credit cards. We're only using debit cards. Even my parents did that. They only used debit cards. I didn't have a credit card until later in college, where I was like, hey, I think I need a credit card because at some point I'm going to need to build credit score, and that's the crazy system that is because you have to borrow money to build a credit score and go into debt to get a good and pay it back to get a good credit score. But that's the point of it is to show lenders that you're a good borrower. Um,
That's another episode right there.
it is a whole other episode. Yeah, and interest being against every law in the Bible. I'm just kidding, but interest, man. What interest just means I have interest in keeping this person alive so they can pay me back with some other.
Yeah.
That's where it came from. I know it did. I don't. Someone's like, I have an interest in this guy. But yeah, it was the credit cards for me. Was stay away from it because it's more of a liability than a tool. If I was to learn how to teach it right, you give me a credit card in high school that's fully controlled by my parents. They can have cash back that goes into my account or your account because you're paying for all my stuff anyways. You're the parent in high school. Then I'm secure. You know where I'm at, and I have a credit score by the time I'm in college, whether that's for a student loan or any other type of loan, car loan, house mortgage afterwards, or the next credit card, right? So definitely, if taught properly and there's actual rewards you want, credit card's the way to go because I can go get a couple more paychecks. I can take weekends so I can get a couple more paychecks before I have to pay that thing off. before interest kicks in. That helps too if you're buying something large. Yeah, okay.
Both of those were great points, especially Jimmy's. I liked it. The saving, I even see it in my dad's eye now. My dad's eyes now because he's asking me about crypto because probably our parents' generation probably got screwed the worst because they started with a system that's no longer viable. At least now, like Jimmy's doing, he's preparing his son for the world ahead. He's investing now for him. But like our parents got screwed. Like they started off with a good system, but now it's no longer no longer viable. But I had to say, so but that was a good one, Jimmy. Um, my aha moment or thing was the transfer of money. How like specifically gold was moved in a basement in a central bank from like pallets, and that's how they would track country's money. Like that's crazy. That's crazy how that system works for like them to go downstairs to a basement and like grab a gold bar and move it from like the U.S. stockpile to like the France stockpile. And I'm like, that is absurd. But come to find out, that's how bank accounts work. Like they have what are called Nostro Vostro accounts. And the Nostro Vostro accounts are basically if Jimmy's bank has an account with Cody's bank, no money ever moves. It just debits or credits the accounts. The money never really leaves the bank. I think they do some do it like once a quarter or maybe once a year or something like that. But like no money ever actually like moves. It's all messages. So if you ever go, like I think I said last time, if you ever go into your bank account and you see pending, it's because like the systems have to send a message that says to credit or debit an account. That's why like some banks take longer because they might not have an account with that bank, and then they have like fees attached. So the movement of money was like that was it for me. I was just like, and it's because I was trying to buy my parents' house, and the escrow thing, and both of y'all have bought houses. The escrow thing blew my mind. I was like, why is this taking so long? Like it's $500 or whatever, $1,500 for escrow, whatever it was. I was like, why is this taking a week? Like that makes no sense. Like, but yeah, the transfer of money got me.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
I did not know that we used to have pallets of gold bars.
like legit pallets and gold bars with like the country name on the pallet, and like they would pick it up and move it, and that's how they would debit and credit accounts when banking really, I'm gonna say, became commercialized globally. But yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Weren't they
And
supposed to?
wasn't the central bank in like England or something like that?
There is a
I mean,
central bank in London.
yeah, each country has a central bank, but
No, not all of them can. You don't know which ones don't.
which ones?
All the ones we went to war with in the past 80 years.
Cody is correct on that. Cody is correct. That is
Still not Afghanistan. Still not Iran.
yeah. That is correct. That is correct.
Anywhere where there's been a hot war or U.S.
Where there, yeah, hot wars. Yeah.
What's the message? What's the message of that, Cody? Why? Is there something else?
It wasn't on the itinerary, but I guess it's kind of why the government's daddy, which is the next function. But government's daddy because uh, it made itself daddy, right? The United States government was formed and grew and bloomed into what it is today. A very good, strong government, right? Whether strong militarily or strong economy, you can argue, or strong patriotism. I think we're very patriotic for our size of the country, right? Even 50% of our population, you could say, is super patriotic. Is still a lot more people than a lot of other countries have. The formation of the government and then the creation of a central bank in the United States, Federal Reserve. We're not, daddy is now owned by someone. Someone owns daddy. I don't know who it is.
They don't know who. The board of directors for the Federal Reserve is like the most widely kept secret in America. I tried to look it up one time. There's nothing. Like you cannot find those board of directors for the
Stop
Federal
looking at
Reserve.
it. Stop looking at it, dude, because they're watching this right now somehow. They're posting this, but they're watching it. All right. But I don't know who it is, Jim, and we could speculate all year and still never be close. That the video I sent you guys of Ian Carroll on the Joe Rogan podcast, I'm still not all the way through it. I like that guy. I think he's a lot different mindset than anywhere we started. He has a whole different road as far as being a poor liberal kind of thing. Like, hey man, let's go surf, let's go snowboard kind of thing. But now he started like, just like Joe Rogan was, a little bit kind of left leaning. They're starting to be like, like Stephen A. Smith recently was like, wait, there's some shit going on. There's shit
Yeah,
been going on for decades, centuries. But ever since the Federal Reserve happened, Jimmy, we sold our soul, and that's why the Alexander Hamilton, that musical, that was glorified as Alexander Hamilton. You know, I think he wanted a central bank, right? He wanted the central bank. I thought, and I might be completely off, but someone wanted the central bank back then, and someone didn't. Uh, and I think the people that did it died. I think that's usually how the way it goes. If you didn't want the central bank, you died. A lot of those people were said to be on the Titanic. A lot of the big wigs coming over the United States to kind of talk about things and put a stop to it. Every president ever that's mentioned anything about who the heck owns us, shot in the head in a car from a grassy knoll, apparently. Not going to name any names of presidents, but
yeah.
don't go to a play. They shoot you there too. You talk about you don't want the central bank. But so my big theory was the very simple one was you got the Vatican, you got London, then you got Washington D.C. All small territories that are not part of the countries they are geolocated at. Right there, I mean, Washington D.C. is not technically part of the United States of America.
Yeah.
Whatever legal term, it's part of the United States corporation. When the United States became a corporation, which is when the Federal Reserve was made. London, same thing. It's not part of England. It's there. It's got its own boundary. It's got its own entity, own governing body. And then you got the Vatican within Italy that is its own governing body. Um, People like to think that the Roman Empire collapsed and then became the Vatican. Maybe I haven't dug too much into that. I have to wrestle with the religious part on that one too sometimes.
I'm about this close to take your bait with that sentence right there.
Yeah. So
don't let me go down that rabbit hole.
But hear me out. So each one of those places, I'm pretty sure, has a what's the word? What's the Washington Monument? What's the word? It's not basilisk. What's the pointy thing? The Washington Monument, what it's shaped like, right? There's a word for it. I forget. There's one in London. There's one in the Vatican, and the flags are kind of similar. And they got 3 stars on them. They're supposed to represent the sisterhood of these cities. London being the economic center, Vatican being the religious center, and then America being the governing and military central part of it.
I have heard that.
Yeah, I think that's very simple. I think it's too simple not to make sense. And then, I think whoever is pulling the strings has something to do with those 3 places, because even a lot of the world looks to the Vatican, and then obviously London is just the economic center, and a lot of commerce has been happening for longer than most places have been existing.
Yeah.
The United States is the police of the entire world, and then whenever we say nope, we're going to take a step back and not fund you militarily or support you militarily, and we're actually going to ask for some money back, then everyone gets mad at us.
Everybody gets mad.
But they're mad at us for being involved.
Yeah.
So, I think, oh, look at Goose. What does Goose have to say?
Oh, he had an addition.
We're crazy over here, man.
That's a. But yeah, Jim, that's what. He might have been awake grabbing the dog, but the religious center is the Vatican, economic center is London, and the military governing forces of America, or Washington D.C. I think that's pretty damn accurate.
No arguments with me.
Yeah.
I don't have that much fact to back it up, but
Please include me on
And
that.
it's
so simple.
Please,
It's so simple. It
please
makes the brain happy.
include me on the episode about the church. Coming from a devout
Yeah.
man.
Maybe not during Lent, Jim, or maybe Good Friday. Maybe we'll have a Good Friday episode where we're hangry from fasting all day, and then we'll just really. It does hurt my brain though thinking about like, is someone calling the shots or is no one calling the shots? And it's just for me to wrestle sometimes. Man. It's fun though. That's what I mean. I respect people that think that way and have the courage to go down paths of uh, just people don't want to think. It's easy, right? It's easy to nudge people in the easy direction. What's actually kind of hard to, but people will go the path of least resistance. They usually flow like water.
I'm down there all day, every day, dude. Like the rabbit holes I go down, just like. And if you want to take it a step further, I mean, people call it conspiracy theories, but like if you want to take it a step further, they say like the social security numbers were issued is like it's a debt based system for that exact entity that you're talking about, that three prong entity. So like we as people are used as collateral for the countries.
I have this person, they're born, they're automatically enrolled in Social Security, they get a number. This is how much they're going to be worth over the period of their life.
Yep. Yep.
And we're going to check in on them every time they use anything to the best. They get their Social Security. We're going to find out their net worth. We know how much they make every year.
And I watched it. There was a podcast, real quick. There's a podcast with some lady. She, I guess she had her identity stolen. Somebody had sold her identity, got her social security number, and they would not issue her a new social security number. So, like, I mean, it's like an hour long podcast that she was like talking about this, whatever. But I thought that was weird too, right? If you get your identity stolen, clearly your social security number is compromised. You should be able to get a new social security number. And she was like, they would not give her one, and I don't know like if you're able to get one, but I thought that was weird to even think about. Like, you can't get a new social security number. Why is that? Like, is it so pertinent that it's tied to you? You know?
I mean, yeah, that would make, I don't think you should be making new Social Security numbers, but maybe that's what happened and why we had 200-year-old people in the Social Security system. I mean, I know that human error happens every day. I almost punch a hole in my office wall today because of it. Not because of mine, but because someone else's in the government that people blindly trust, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. In the same breath, people complain about how slow the government works and government employees and things like that in some instances, and then they just blindly trust the government.
Yeah.
That was one of the other things was I think it was I guess we're in the wise government come daddy segment of it, but the authority fallacy is people blindly trusting people that claim to have authority and that authorities. I mean, it happens in Jimmy and I feels all the time. Um, whatever whatever acronyms are after your name, it happens in the army all the time with whatever's in front of your name. Um, and every right we've earned those things by whatever means we're presented to. And we have to take the test. We have to work this long. We have to, you know, command this many things or whatever. And um, then people blindly trust you. Or blindly believe it as fact because you have authority awarded to you by some private entity. I think that's why government becomes daddy because it's easy. It's easy. We're the government. We're here to help, and we're right.
There's a you ever seen that the quote? I don't know if it was by.
It's relevant.
Yeah. Okay. He said, there's no worse words to hear than "I'm from the government and I'm here to help you," or whatever he says.
Yeah, nine. I think it's 9 words.
Yeah.
The scariest 9 words.
Yeah. and then
Government, and I'm here to help.
and then Kamala says like the same thing. I remember somebody posted them side by side like during the election, like posted them. I was like, not a good look.
But yeah, it's just I think now too the government has become a lot of the bureaucracies have just become so big and just so like like diluted, like almost like you're doing too much. Everyone and some of these employees have their own agendas because there's just so many of them. and then people want the government jobs, and that's natural. That's fine. I'm not dominating the employees or their agendas, but they can't control themselves anymore, and they kind of eat themselves alive, and they're working in circles. And I'm all about the government just staying stationary, not doing anything. I'm not progressive, but I'm also not progressive. Uh, but at some point, there's got to be like a breaking point to where the agenda gets back on track, and then that quality and the merit of being a government employee comes back, right? Like the intention of the government is realigned. Because I think the intention of the government now is I have my own personal agenda. I can go work for the government, and they're not going to, unless I'm an absolute crazy person and I'm more on the right side than the left side, they're not going to do anything about it. I think Musk said something kind of stupid about like something about not needing empathy to the federal government, and then someone tried to knock him about it. It's like as soon as the federal government starts dealing in empathy, then things are bad or something along those lines. People took that as the government should have empathy and they don't care about people; they just care about whatever. And yes, it can get that way too. But as soon as you start trying to govern the feelings and which bathroom to use and making sure everyone feels good, it's impossible. It is impossible. It is proven over the course of human history. You cannot please everyone. You can't. It is impossible. Right? So don't please anyone. Right? You're not in business to please anyone. I'm not
Just get
saying
rid of
displease people.
taxes.
I'm not saying displease people. I'm not saying go around and just seek retribution on everyone. I'm just saying make sure we're safe. Make sure we have roads to drive on. Make sure water and electricity can get to my house and from my house. And then we'll figure out the rest. We're pretty good that
Get
way.
rid of taxes. That's
Yeah,
it.
and I think the whole transparency thing is going to help people start. It's not that we want people to. We want more trust in the government, and I think that all starts with transparency. And so I don't fully understand why people are mad about some of the things coming out with Doge. Like, I don't. How how can
Okay,
it
I
either?
know why they're mad. I know why they're mad, Jim. It's because they've tied themselves personally, like a religion or like their person, to that ideology and that side of the aisle. They did that. So now whenever you talk bad about it, they get just like, hey, you're guilty, right? We caught you in the act. And people lash out, right? Hey, you didn't put your shopping cart away. And they're like, after you, dude. Because they know they're guilty. People hate being guilty. And then it's their person. If I just agreed with policy after policy, like you said last time, if you just agree for what it is rather than who it is or what side it is, then you're not going to personally tie yourself to anything unless that policy ends up being bad. And at that point, it's like, well, that was just a bad decision. Should have invested in that stock. Shouldn't have done that. And we change it. And we fix it. Rather than sit here and yell at each other for 7 years and then never fix it.
Yeah.
That's what it's been in my adulthood. It's been, hey, these are all the problems. Everyone knows what the problems are. Let's yell at each other for 7 years. And here we are, slashing budgets because we didn't want to do it nice in the beginning, so we got to do it nasty now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's why they're mad, Jim.
Why are we spending money looking into this? Well, we're wasting money.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Why are you even wasting your time looking at this stuff? We're wasting money. Yeah.
But I think it can change. I think the perception can change. We
Right,
just
but it's not going to be.
people,
It's not going to be smooth.
no,
It will be
people need
smooth.
to know where their money's going. They want to see how we're paying all this money in taxes. Where are the taxes money going?
So much money. Then you get tax breaks for kids, right? And I don't have kids yet, Jim, but you get a tax break for them, and then
1,000 maybe.
that means less money is going towards the services for your child. That way, and I'm going to tax more to support you and your child. I'm not saying that's wrong. I'll do that. But I'm
Well,
saying it just doesn't make sense.
well, yeah. I'm not gonna complain about any breaks I get because being taxed in the first place is wrong.
We want quality people to have quality kids, and we want them to be in a family. We want them to be productive. I get that, like you said before. So I guess as long as we get rid of all the other nonsense stuff of benefiting single parenthood and just having as many kids as possible for many people as possible, I will support your kid if you're married to your wife. emphasis on wife.
Full support for the baby mamas.
Get out of here. Get out of here. Get out of the comment section. Just get out. Unsubscribe, unfollow, dislike. Don't leave a comment. So I don't need anyone on TV that is a senator or a congressman or anything else. When it comes down to a choice that I think should be me, personal choice, I don't need them to tell me any of that stuff. If it's like foreign policy or a budgeting decision for a policy or uh, uh, how laws should work in between states or how the federal government should coordinate with the states for emergencies or whatever it is, by all means tell me you read the document. That's your job. Tell me what the document says, and then tell me why you're voting one way or the other. Like that's what the government they're represented for. Like they're representing us not just as a voice, but as eyes and ears and brain to process the information that's being proposed and then vote on it. I think they forget that they're just a voice. They just shut, you know. So, I mean, I think we all agree here that they shouldn't be arbiters of good and bad, right? Like morally good and bad.
No, they should be representing their constituents.
But by policy, right? Not by stealing is like they don't need to tell me stealing is bad. Make the law that stealing is bad, then I'll follow the law. I don't know. I'll be the governing choice of that. They did too much into my personal choice, the personal freedoms that we all want to have. So, but I think a lot of the reasons we have that reliance on government is because people don't want to make those decisions, and they want to have that scapegoat, right? The government says it's okay, and I don't have to wrestle with my own stuff about whether it's good or bad. The government says it's fine, right? Men can play women's sports because the government says so, and that's fine. Right? It's easy to follow. I'm not saying we don't question laws because there are some laws we should question, but I think a lot of that comes from government's data because I don't want to make that decision for myself. That's part of the problem I saw at work today is that people don't want to decide for themselves. Right? Your job at most jobs is to make decisions and to do the job. A lot of people don't want to make those decisions. They want to be like, I want to go talk to this guy. I'll get back with you. Make a decision. We're talking right now. Me and you. We're both talking. Make a decision.
That's a accountability thing that most people want to avoid.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Do you think it's possible to change it? Do you think it's possible to change the masses' herd mentality perception of the government's not here to do literally everything for you?
I think we need receipts. That's the big thing nowadays. Show me the receipts. People need proof that we're doing good things in the government. They want to see. I mean, I feel like that's the only way is people need to see how we're doing it, even though sometimes I feel like it'll never be enough for some people. But they gotta explain what they're doing, and they
And that's they're doing a really good job of calling out all the bullshit we're spending money on right now, but they haven't done any of the good stuff quite yet. They're still in that. This administration is still in that kind of retribution era. They're like, F this, but hell yeah, we're doing this. And some people are still adjusting. But slowly, you got Stephen A. Smith is saying that, well, wait, that's actually pretty good. Right? Well, that's actually pretty good. Guys like him start coming around. Hopefully, it starts trickling down. But it's got to get out to the mainstream first because that's what those people follow is the easy mainstream thinking information they get.
I'm a cynic. I don't see it changing just because people's attention span on issues aren't a long term view. It's not, and it never will be. That
2 weeks.
is 2 weeks, a month, 6 months. And when you're talking about government intervention, you're looking at 18 months, 4 year time periods. Most people ain't thinking 4 years ahead. They're trying to think about, eggs. How much are eggs today? Like that's what it comes down to. And it's not their fault, right? It's the way we developed over, our time on this planet. Like how long I saw something that was brilliant on a podcast. It was like basically white men versus black men. Why have white men developed systems so much better than black men have over the course of human history, but it was because like the environment that white men were like tending to had like seasons. They had to plan a year out, right? You couldn't like if you were living up north in the Nordic area, you had to plan a year out for your crop. Opposed to Africa, you could hunt year round. It was always warm. Like yeah, you had drought season, but like you can always pick fruits and stuff. So he was saying like that mentality has kind of been like it's exacerbated over time. But when most people are thinking, if you're only thinking a year out, like you're not reading an 800-page bill. Yeah, it might affect your kid in 12 years, but like you ain't reading it. People can't do it. They're not gonna do it. Like
Yeah, as long as my lobbyist just getting paid. Um, I've never heard it broken down like that. That makes a lot of sense on the geolocation.
yeah,
Yeah, I feel
if you think
that's that's a big deal because I mean you can break it down from just all cultures. You don't have to break it down black and white, but it definitely makes a lot of sense.
yeah, just like the predominant, if you're thinking about Africa versus like Vikings, I guess that'd be the. I'm gonna just say like the two.
I mean, even Northern Europe is the
Yeah,
northeast part of the United States. It's up there in that latitude. So
it's harsh. It's harsher seasonal change. So if you're going to plan for a year, like you need systems in place that are going to, benefit you. You can't kind of just like, even now, right? You still have African tribes living in huts, which I think is crazy. Like, I ain't living in no hut. But it's because they haven't required the need for systems like AC or they don't really need they can survive there. There's been um no, I'm gonna say no outside source to force their change. If outside force doesn't force you to change, it's not gonna change. So that's why I think
that's
like most people what's up?
that Newton's second or first. That's the Newton's first law, right? Or second law. It's one of the Newtons. It's
You
physics
would
camp.
know.
I'm
Newton's
not an
first
engineer,
law.
I don't know physics.
An object will remain at rest unless acted upon by an outside force.
There you go. People
Jamie, can
people
you
are
pull
people.
up Newton's first law?
Yeah.
Jimmy,
Yeah.
Jimmy, pull up Newton's third wife.
Yeah.
So, speaking of that, you get to teach your son, who's basically damn near literally a younger version of you, Jimmy. Name and everything. What is something? What is something you know now that you should have known then?
I would, I don't really try to ever think of myself as having regrets. I don't want to sound uppity, but I don't like to think I live my life with regrets. So I'm always forward thinking. But if I could really dissect, um, a couple things I would say is to be really aggressive on how you feel. I was always kind of aggressively obedient and going with the system and following directions. And I was good at that stuff. So I was good at you give me a task, I'll crush it, no matter what it takes, I'll get it done. But I never was taught to buck the system or things like that. So I'm bringing JJ up to be aggressive and insert himself when he's got a thought in his head. I want him to act on those things and not kind of sit back and let things play out, but to be more aggressive. And I think the other thing that I would like to give a little advice to my old self, if I could, or something that I want to instill in JJ is to definitely read more. So I didn't read a whole lot growing up, but something I'm finding myself doing more now. Self improvement books or finance books. I don't really go into the engineering stuff anymore, man. I thought I'd maybe do some more research with engineering stuff, but I'm anti that stuff. I just want to learn different stuff and I want to get involved with as much stuff as I can. That's one of my biggest flaws is
That's
like trying to research all these kind of different things. But yeah, I wish I would have read more. So definitely trying to instill that into JJ to read books. And now he's loving all the Dr. Seuss we can give him. We can't read enough to him at night. He's asking for more and more and more. So it's about all I got.
What's a book you got on the active passive list right now?
Well, I just finished one called The Four Agreements by, I think his name's Don Pablo. Listen to the audiobook. Man, that was incredible. Don Miguel Ruiz. Big time self improvement book, and gets into a lot about how you basically how you grow up in this culture, and you make these agreements with yourself on this is what's right versus this is what's wrong, and how we can change those agreements in the future, and these just different psychological things to break us out of bad habits or get us into good habits of some things that you can implement in your day to day.
You're in any good books right now?
Man, that's one thing I don't do and I'm not gonna do. I've never been a reader. Just uh, everything I've learned now is through podcasts. Um, I just find a person on topic I like is doing a topic I like, and I'll listen to them. Subscribe. It's easy. They do all the research. Like, yeah, they might have some biases, but like for the most part, they'll give you if it's a non-political person, they'll give you, the wave tops. And if you want to do more research after that, you can. But I ain't reading no books, man. I just
Yeah,
never
that's
did my thing.
not to knock you because I do the same thing. I don't read as often as I should. When I have
Yeah,
downtime, I definitely try to. But the week to week stuff, now I gotta get more disciplined to fitting that in. I challenge that with talking to you guys about stuff. But like that superficial kind of like wave tops, like you put it, like that surface level
yeah,
understanding is good to get you off on the right track, and it's good to kind of keeping you out of the matrix and seeing the big picture. But it definitely is. It's like, do you want to be the jack of all trades, or do you want to be like a master of something, or you really want to be an expert on something? And
yeah,
I mean, I would much rather rely on the experts in a lot of different topics to help me become like more versed in more of a wide array of things. I think that's being more versatile as a man human being. I think being a master is good depending on what that mastery is, but if you're a master at understanding a lot of different topics, I think that's a pretty good skill to have too, because then you can grab something and go down that road of learning it if you really need to in a situation. But man, does it hurt my brain. A lot of different pulls in each direction. You want to do all of them at once. Uh, it is tough. So, but I think that's kind of the next thing. Like Camp said, like we don't want to read. The time here is tough. People our age haven't written books yet of our generation that thinks like us, right? So all the generations that are writing books are usually older people, right? So we're getting that knowledge from their experiences. So it's good to get the back knowledge on that. But I think we're going back through kind of a spoken word um, information exchange, kind of how it first started with humans. Like everything was by spoken word. Everything was word of mouth stories and experiences, and this is what I found. Hey, this is what I found. That happened a long time ago before technology ever happened. So I think now with podcasts, with we have access to everything, you're getting that kind of spoken word information exchange because what everyone in the mainstream is saying is usually spoken word because that's what's easy to understand. It's what's convenient to understand. I don't have to think very hard. You're just speaking at me, and I grab what makes me feel good. I'm not going to do this motion anymore on the podcast because that was a weird motion.
yeah.
That's tough to see, but I did it twice. So have fun with it
Cut
if
that
you'd
out.
like. Yeah.
Good.
See, that's what I'm saying, Matt. There's no reason for me to say something like that in the middle of the discussion I was just having. There's something. There's, there's no reason for me to do. But yeah, I think the spoken word is going to be the way to combat. You got to fight fire with fire, right? If people are getting their convenient, easy information by word of mouth, then you have to be able to provide the opposing view or the constructive view by word of mouth in a easy to understand way that's easy to swallow. Uh, and then we can write books about it. Like 30 years from now, us guys can write books about this conversation what happened and how the world's turned out. That and hopefully we're still not radiated. Hopefully we don't have too much radiation in ourselves at that point. And eggs are $7 million an egg. I think they went 30% egg price down though this week,
Gas and inflation are down.
and eggs. So I mean, Jimmy doesn't want to eat gas. I know that from experience. But eggs, so I'll take eggs and go from there. Um, the book I'm reading, I'm still working on the Black Swan. Um, I'm a little bit out of my territory on those books. with that's a lead guy. He he's a very smart fellow. I like reading his books because I can hear his like Lebanese kind of east east West Asia wherever that central that is, that kind of the kind of the tempo. He's a funny guy. Like he's got like that little bit of sarcasm. So I can hear his voice when I read it, and it's very agreeable with my tone and my kind of cadence. So it's an easy but hard read. That regarding it, he puts some kind of funny sarcasm and he's down these little tidbits in his personality there, which makes it a very good academic read, but also very good. Um, so he references old philosophy guys that I have no clue. I know their names, but I don't know their work and things like that. Like those the philosophy centered guys are really fun to talk about because they study people that think. We've studied other people that thought. And his black swan was the whole argument that I've never seen a black swan, therefore there must not be black swans. Well, you can't make that. You can't say that that's a thing, right? And it's an old argument that's taken from something else, but just because just for the lack of evidence doesn't mean that's not true, right?
Yeah.
Right? Well, so it's that over an entire like 500-page book with like graphs and tables in it. And I get laughed at my honeymoon because I got graphs and tables in the book that I'm reading on the beach with a pina colada. But he's got some good other fallacies in there too that I need to go back and write down because there's a lot of easy kind of logic traps you get yourself into, and you get down that path and like you get in that way of thinking, and like you think ABC has to happen every time, but you just get stuck in kind of a circular loop, or you get stuck in a bad habit. And the exercise of thinking differently is tough. And again, I think that's a big trait too, is that be stubborn, Jimmy, right? Take that feeling and go head on like you're talking about. Definitely be stubborn on things that you 100% know or need to be stubborn on. I've learned that I would also say be flex, don't just go against the grain, but be flexible in the way you're thinking, right? So that means don't just question everything, don't just rebel against everything, but also be like, no, I should commit to that. I mean, you got to be able to flip that switch and make those decisions and have accountability in those decisions. And either wear your consequences, bear your consequences, or reap the benefits. But so many people are so scared of consequences that they don't do anything. Really rely on daddy government to do things. Then we all have consequences.
There's his name's Alex Harmozy, podcast guy, gym guy, and he just had like a quick thing. It was like, when do you know when to quit something? Like you just said, like being stubborn versus like having the ability to change. And his point was, I'll do something as hard as I can until I'm given another piece of information that changes my value proposition. And I was like, man, that kind of because like, how do you know when running is enough? Like I just run all day, but like you'll do something. It's okay to do something as hard and as long as possible until like you're presenting with another piece of information, and then like you reorganize or reassess, and then like you can continue or you can change course. And I thought that was good for me when he said that. I was like, man, because like how do you know when to stop? Like how do you know what is too much?
Did he phrase it to where he was like, are you looking for that information or that other added value to present itself, or are you more just like the universe will give it to me?
I'm not sure, honestly. I'm not sure.
Because I struggle with that. I think the same way too. It's like, oh yeah, I'll get the sign. There'll be a sign. There'll be something presented that I can make a decision on. But sometimes
Yeah.
that comes, and maybe it never comes for a reason. But sometimes it just never comes. No, or it's not blatant, right? Or you're stuck in some loop that you can't see it. So that's more of like that's tough because you want to be accountable. You want to make a decision. You want to work hard at something. You want to beat the hell out of it until you get the outcome you want. But then again, it's like you're just not going to get that outcome.
Yeah.
That's a sign that you got to choose that for yourself and quit, or you got to something presents itself and say it's just not going to happen. It'll happen this way, or if I change my path. That's a tough balance. So appreciate your guys' time. Hope you guys keep carrying on, enjoy your lives, and hopefully we see each other soon in person.
Yep.
Likewise.
Absolutely.
That fellas.
All right, boys.